Welcome to 1001 Nights. My name is Saman Giraud and I'll be your host this evening. And this is Lady Burton. Alright, Burton. Burton, are you gonna get up, darling? Let's see. It's always the same lately. Oh, excuse my cleavage. Sorry. Let me just gently grab her. Do you want to say hello? Do you want to say hello? You want to say hello? I know you want to say hello. Say hello to our lovely viewers. And say welcome to 1001 Nights. Alright. Do not be surprised if she hops off. That's what she usually does. Let's see. The music in the background, by the way, is by Kami Sadiri. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all doing well. It's good to be back. Burton is excited too, as you can tell. And we will be continuing the story of Ala al-Din, also known in our world as Aladdin. All right. Oh, I really thought I could show off my dress. It's not gonna happen. All right, it's okay, relax. All right, enjoy the reading, everyone. Now, when it was the 267th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Caliph ordered Calamity Ahmad, saying, I charge thee, fetch him to me." And the other replied, "To hear is to obey." Whereupon the Caliph bade them give him 10,000 gold pieces, and he fared forth for Alexandria. On this wise it happed with Aslan, but as regards his father, Din Abu Al Shamat, he sold in course of time all that was in his shop, excepting a few things, and amongst them a long bag of leather. And happening to shake the bag, there fell out a jewel which filled the palm of the hand, hanging to a chain of gold and having many facets, but especially 5, whereon were names and talismanic characters, as they were ant tracks. So he rubbed each face, but none answered him, and he said to himself, "Doubtless it is a piece of variegated onyx," and then hung it up in the shop. And behold, a consul passed along the street, and raising his eyes, saw the jewel hanging up. So he seated himself over against the shop, and said to Ala al-Din, "O my lord, is the jewel for sale?" He answered, "All I have is for sale." Thereupon the Frank said, "Wilt thou sell me that same for 80,000 dinars?" "Allah open," replied Ala al-Din. The Frank asked, "Wilt thou sell it for 100,000 dinars?" "Pay me down," "The money," he answered. Quoth the consul, "I cannot carry about such sum as its price, for there be robbers and sharpers in Alexandria. But come with me to my ship, and I will pay thee the price, and give thee to boot a bale of Angora wool, a bale of satin, a bale of velvet, and a bale of broadcloth." So Ala al-Din rose and locked up his shop, after giving the jewel to the Frank, and committed the keys to his neighbours, saying, "Keep these keys in trust for me, whilst I go with this consul to his ship, and return with the price of my jewel. If I be long absent, and there come to thee Ahmad al-Danaf, the captain who stablished in this shop, give him the keys and tell him where I am." Then he went with the consul to his shop. And no sooner had he boarded it than the Frank set him a stool, and making him sit down, said to his men, "Bring the money." So they brought it, and he paid him the price of the jewel, and gave him the 4 bales he had promised him, and 1 over, after which he said to him, "O my lord, honour me by accepting a bite or a sup." And Ala al-Din answered, it's a bit difficult with this cat. Hold on. Let's see how I can read this properly. And Ala al-Din answered, "If thou have any water, give me to drink." So the Frank called for sherbets, and they brought drink drugged with bang, of which no sooner had Ala al-Din drunk than he fell over on his back, whereupon they stowed away the chairs and shipped the shoving poles and made sail. Now the wind blew fair for them, till it drove them into blue water. And when they were beyond sight of land, the captain bade bring Ala al-Din up out of the hold, and made him smell the counter drug of bang. Whereupon he opened his eyes and said, "Where am I?" He replied, "Thou art bound and in my power, and if thou hadst said Allah open to 100,000 dinars for the jewel, I would have bidden thee more." "What art thou?" asked Ala al-Din. And the other answered, "I am a sea captain, and mean to carry thee to my sweetheart." Now as they were talking, behold, a ship hove in sight, carrying 40 Muslim merchants. So the Frank captain attacked the vessel, and made fast to it with grappling irons. Then he boarded it with his man, and took it, and plundered it, after which he sailed on with his prize, till he reached the city of Genoa. There the captain, who was carrying off Ala al-Din, landed and repaired to a palace, whose postern gave upon the sea. And behold, there came down to him a damsel in a chin veil, who said, "Hast thou brought the jewel and the owner?" "I have brought them both," answered he. And she said, "Then give me the jewel." So he gave it to her, and returning to the port, fired his cannon to announce his safe return. Whereupon the king of the city, being notified of that captain's arrival, came down to receive him, and asked him, "How hath been this voyage?" He answered, "A right prosperous one, and while voyaging I have made prize of a ship with 41 Muslim merchants." Said the king, "Land them at the port." So he landed the merchants, and irons and Ala al-Din among the rest, and the king and the captain mounted and made the captives walk before them till they reached the audience chamber, when the Franks seated themselves and caused the prisoners to pass in parade order, one by one, before the king, who said to the first, "O Muslim, whence comest thou?" He answered, "From Alexandria." Whereupon the king said, "O headsman, put him to death." So the sworder smote him with the sword and cut off his head. And thus it fared with the second and the third, till 40 were dead, and there remained but Ala al-Din, who drank the cup of his comrade's sighs and agony, and said to himself, "Allah have mercy on thee, O Ala al-Din, thou art a dead man." Then said the king to him, "And thou, what countryman art thou?" He answered, "I am from Alexandria." And the king said, "O headsman, strike off his head." So the sworder raised arm and sword and was about to strike, when behold, an old woman of venerable aspect presented herself before the king, who rose to do her honor, and said to him, "O king, did I not bid thee remember, when the captain came back with captives, to keep 1 or 2 for the convent, to serve in the church?" The king replied, "O my mother, would thou hadst come a while earlier, but take this one that is left." So she turned to Ala al-Din and said to him, "Say, wilt thou serve in the church, or shall I let the king slay thee?" Quoth he, "I will serve in the church." So she took him and carried him forth of the court, and went to the church, where he said to her, "What service must I do?" She replied, "Thou must rise with the dawn and take 5 mules, and go with them to the forest, and there cut dry firewood and saw it short, and bring it to the convent kitchen. Then must thou take up the carpets and sweep and wipe the stone and marble pavements, and lay the carpets down again as they were. After which thou must take 2 bushels and a half of wheat, and bolt it, and grind it, and knead it, and make it into cracknels. And thou must take also a bushel of lentils, and sift and crush and cook them. Then must thou fetch water in barrels, and fill the 4 fountains, after which thou must take 366 wooden bowls, and crumble the cracknels therein, and pour off the lentil pottage over each, and carry every monk and patriarch his bowl." Said Ala al-Din, "Take me back to the king, and let him kill me. It were easier to me than this service." Replied the old woman, "If thou do truly and rightly the service that is due from thee, thou shalt escape death. But if thou do it not, I will let the king kill thee." And with these words, Ala al-Din was left sitting heavy at heart. Now there were in the church 10 blind cripples. And one of them said to him, "Bring me a pot." So he brought it him, and he cacked and eased himself therein, and said, "Throw away the orger." He did so, and the blind man said, "The Messiah's blessing be upon thee, O servant of the church." Presently, behold, the old woman came in and said to him, "Why hast thou not done thy service in the church?" Answered he, "How many hands have I, that I should suffice for all this work?" She rejoined, "Thou fool, I brought thee not hither except to work." And she added, "Take, O my son, this rod, which was of copper capped with a cross, and go forth into the highway, and when thou meetest the governor of the city, say to him, I summon thee to the service of the church in the name of our Lord the Messiah, and he will not disobey thee. Then make him take the wheat, sift, grind, bolt, knead, and bake it into cracknels. And if any gainsay thee, beat him and fear none." "To hear is to obey," answered he, and did as she said, and never ceased pressing great and small into his service. Nor did he leave to do thus for the space of 17 years. Now one day, as he sat in church, lo, the old woman came to him and said, "Go forth of the convent." He asked, "Whither shall I go?" And she answered, "Thou canst pass the night in a tavern, or with one of thy comrades." Quoth he, "Why dost thou send me forth of the church?" And quoth she, "The princess Husn Mariam, daughter of Johanna, king of the city, purposeth to visit the church, and it befitteth not that any abide in her way." So he made a show of obeying her orders and rose up and pretended that he was leaving the church. But he said in his mind, "I wonder whether the princess is like our women or fairer than they. At any rate, I will not go till I have had a look at her." So he hid himself in a closet with a window, looking into the church, and as he watched, behold, in came the king's daughter. He cast at her one glance of eyes that cost him 1,000 sighs, for he found her like the full moon when it cometh swimming out of the clouds, and he saw with her a young lady. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now when it was the 268th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Ala al-Din looked at the king's daughter, he saw with her a young lady to whom he heard her say, Thy company hath cheered me, O Zubaydah." So he looked straightly at the damsel, and found her to be none other than his dead wife, Zubaydah, the lutist. Then the princess said to Zubaydah, "Come, play us an air on the lute." But she answered, "I will make no music for thee till thou grant my wish and keep thy word to me." Asked the princess, "And what did I promise thee?" And Zubaydah answered, "That thou wouldst reunite me with my husband Ala al-Din Abu Al Shamat, the trusty, the faithful." Rejoined the princess, "O Zubaydah, be of good cheer and keep thine eyes cool and clear. Play us a piece as a thank offering and an ear feast for reunion with thy husband Ala al-Din." "Where is he?" asked Zubaydah. And Mariam answered, "He is in yonder closet, listening to our words." So Zubaydah played on the lute a melody which had made a rock dance for glee. And when Ala al-Din heard it, his bowels yearned towards her, and he came forth from the closet, and throwing himself upon his wife Zubaydah, strained her to his bosom. She also knew him, and the twain embraced and fell to the ground in a swoon. Then came forward the princess Huzn Mariam, and sprinkled rose water on them, till they revived, when she said to them, Allah hath reunited you. Replied Ala al-Din, by thy kind offices, O lady. Then turning to his wife, he said to her, O Zubaydah, thou didst surely die, and we tombed thee in the tomb. How then returnest thou to life, and camest thou to this place? She answered, O my lord, I did not die, but an arm of the jinn snatched me up and flew with me hither. She whom thou buriedst was a jinnia, who shaped herself to my shape and feigned herself dead, but when you entombed her, she broke open the tomb and came forth from it, and returned to the service of this her mistress, the Princess Huzn Mariam. As for me, I was possessed, and when I opened my eyes, I found myself with this princess thou seest. So I said to her, why hast thou brought me hither? Replied she, I am predestined to marry thy husband, Ala al-Din Abu Al Shamat. Wilt thou then, O Zubaydah, accept me to co-consort a night for me and a night for thee? Rejoined I, to hear is to obey, O my lady, but where is my husband? Quoth she, upon his forehead is written what Allah hath decreed to him. As soon as the writing which is there writ is fulfilled to him, there is no help for it but he come hither, and we will beguile the time of our separation from him with songs and playing upon instruments of music, till it please Allah to unite us with him. So I abode all these days with her, till Allah brought us together in this church. Then Huzn Mariam turned to him and said, O my lord, Ala al-Din, wilt thou be to me barren, and I be to the femme? Quoth he, O my lady, I am a Muslim, and thou art a Nazarene, so how can I intermarry with thee? Quoth she, Allah forbid that I should be an infidel. Nay, I am a Muslimah. For these 18 years I have held fast the faith of Al-Islam, and I am pure of any creed other than that of the Islamite. Then said he, O my lady, I desire a return to my native land. And she replied, Know that I see written on thy forehead things which thou must needs accomplish, and then thou shalt win to thy will. Moreover, believe and feign, O Ala al-Din, that there hath been born to thee a son named Aslan, who now being arrived at the age of discretion, sitteth in thy place with the Caliph. Know also that truth hath prevailed, and that falsehood naught availeth, and that the Lord hath withdrawn the curtain of secrecy from him who stole the Caliph's goods, that is, Ahmad Kamakim, the arch-thief and trader, and he now lieth bound and in jail. And no further, 'twas I who sent thee the jewel, and had it put in the bag where thou foundest it. And 'twas I who sent the captain that brought thee and the jewel. For thou must know that the man is enamoured of me, and seeketh my favours, and would possess me. But I refused to yield to his wishes, or let him have his will on me. And I said to him, Thou shalt never have me till thou bring me the jewel and its owner. So I gave him 100 purses, and dispatched him to thee in the habit of a merchant, whereas he is a captain and a war man. And when they led thee to thy death, after slaying the 40 captives, I also sent thee this old woman to save thee from slaughter. Said he, Allah requite thee for us with all good. Indeed, thou hast done well. Then Husn Maryam renewed at his hands her profession of Al-Islam, and when he was assured of the truth of her speech, he said to her, O my lady, tell me, what are the virtues of this jewel, and whence cometh it? She answered, This jewel came from an enchanted hoard, and it hath 5 virtues which will profit us in time of need. Now my lady grandmother, the mother of my father, was an enchantress, and skilled in solving secrets and finding hidden treasures, from one of the which came the jewel into her hand. And as I grew up and reached the age of 14, I read the Evangel and other books, and I found the name of Muhammad, whom Allah bless and preserve, in the 4 books, namely the Evangel, the Pentateuch, the Psalms, and the Quran. So I believed in Muhammad and became a Muslimah, being certain and assured that none is worshipped worth save Allah Almighty, and that to the Lord of all mankind no faith is acceptable save that of Al-Islam. Now when my lady grandmother fell sick, she gave me this jewel and taught me its 5 virtues. Moreover, before she died, my father said to her, Take thy tablets of geomancy and throw a figure, and tell us the issue of my affair and what will befall me. And she foretold him that the far-off one should die, slain by the hand of a captive from Alexandria. So he swore to kill every prisoner from that place, and told the captain of this, saying, There is no help for it, but thou fall on the ships of the Muslims, and seize them, and whomsoever thou findest of Alexandria, kill him or bring him to me. The captain did his bidding until he had slain many in number as the hairs of his head. Then my grandmother died, and I took a geomantic tablet, being minded and determined to know the future. Excuse me. And I said to myself, Let me see who will wed me. Whereupon I threw a figure and found that none should be my husband save one called Ala al-Din Abu Al Shamat, the trusty, the faithful. At this I marvelled and waited till the times were accomplished, and I forgathered with thee. Ala al-Din took her to wife, and said to her, I desire to return to my own country. Quoth she, If it be so, rise up and come with me. Then she took him, and hiding him in a closet at her palace, went in to her father, who said to her, O my daughter, my heart is exceeding heavy this day. Sit down, and let us make merry with wine, I and thou. So she sat down with him, and he called for a table of wine, and she plied him till he lost his wits, when she drugged a cup with bang, and he drank it off, and fell upon his back. Then she brought Ala al-Din out of the closet, and said to him, Come, verily thine enemy lieth prostrate, for I made him drunk and drugged him, so do thou with him as thou wilt. Accordingly, Ala al-Din went to the king, and finding him lying drugged and helpless, pinioned him fast, and manacled him, and fettered him with chains. Then he gave him the counter drug, and he came to himself. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. How was it for tonight? I hope you enjoyed the reading. Please tune in tomorrow. Joanna will be continuing the story of Ala al-Din. Burton and I are sending you much love from stormy Vienna currently, still under lockdown. As usual, remember to go inwards instead of outwards. Much love from both of us. Let's see if I can get this right here. Do you want to say goodbye? Come, say goodbye. She's heavy. Bye, everyone. Good night. Yes. All right, that's enough. Come. The things we do for animals. Good night, everyone. Bye.